Well, the Dow turning positive after rebounding from a 458-point loss earlier. As we head to the final hour of trading, looking a little bit better. We're up 139. NASDAQ is still a little bit red, though, down 27 points. S&P is up 2.5. Oil is kind of a piece of the story today. It settled at its highest level since April 3rd. It settled above $27 a barrel. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's actually a good number for oil. I want to bring in Nicholas Wealth Management President David Nicholas. David, what do you make of what you're seeing today?
Yeah, I think there's a couple factors, Cheryl. You mentioned oil. Oil inventories dropped last week for like the first time in 3 months. I think that was a positive sign for demand. I think we can thank Wells Fargo for today's big run-up in the market. I mean, the stock just got eviscerated over the last few weeks. Really, this fear that if banks are cutting dividends, then we've got a whole lot of problems that are not baked into markets as of yet. So, there's a lot of uncertainty. You mentioned guidance as well. I just think it's hard for corporate executives to give guidance when there's just unknowns. 30 million Americans unemployed. The economic damage is continuing. So I think the markets are trading on hope. The hope is that, the story's not as bad as what it looks, but I guess we're just going to have to see what July, August looks like towards the end of the year.
We heard from President Trump today. He sat down exclusively with Maria Bartiromo, and he talked about the third quarter and the fourth quarter. He said he thought that he thinks that we're going to see some stabilization in the third quarter and that we would have a good fourth quarter. He actually was pointing to next year as a stronger year. What do you say as far as where the economy is going to be, where the markets are going to be longer term?
Yeah, and I want to be optimistic. As an American, we're rooting for this recovery, but it really comes down to what is the confidence of the consumer? And I think we just should ask ourselves, are we confident of going out to eat and sitting down in a restaurant? And I think when we can say to that, absolutely, I have no problem going out to eat, sitting in a restaurant, and I have no concerns, I think that's when we'll see the U.S. economy start to take off. Cheryl, I just don't think we're there yet. So I think that lack of confidence really flows into all sectors of the economy. It's going to take time. We got to have a vaccine. But again, if we get a vaccine in the fall, it doesn't mean that every single American is going to get vaccinated. So this could still play out over the next 12 to 24 months. So I just think it's why it's important to make sure we know what we're buying. We raised some cash recently on these high levels to be able to take advantage of lower levels in the market. I think you're going to have opportunities like that with the volatility we're seeing.
What have you been buying? You got to tell me now.
I like Adobe. If you're looking at tech, to me, tech is almost a defensive play. I like a company like Adobe. I like still a company like Microsoft. I like information companies, S&P, Moody's. They're doing a lot of bond issuance, a lot of bond ratings. So we're looking at names. I like MasterCard. I know it's been a big run up. Don't think of MasterCard as the credit card, but think of it for its digital payments aspects. So I like tech, I like information, and I like the non-banking names like a MasterCard in this type of environment.
What about we've been tracking a lot of the food companies. I mean, there's so much talk about the supply chain that had been coming from China, whether it was pharmaceuticals, whether it was manufactured goods, and that there's a big talk, I think, a national conversation happening about having manufacturing happening in this country. We've had the food shortages. Obviously, that's been an issue on the domestic front. But what do you make of that? Are we going to see a renewed American economy in a couple of years because of this pandemic and what we've been through?
Really good point. And what is it going to take for, Americans to say enough is enough? And when are we going to be able to depend on ourselves for this type of infrastructure? So I think the coronavirus has really shown where our weakness is. And it's depending on other nations for critical infrastructure like food, manufacturing. I think this is a wake-up call. And I think American consumers and companies should demand that if the products and services that are necessary for everyday life are made here in the United States. So I think made in America is going to be big over the coming years. So I think we will see that resurgence, which may mean higher costs in the short term, but will ultimately lead to profitability that will stay here in the U.S. long term.
I've only got, David, about 10 seconds, but I do want to ask you about that initial jobless claims read we got today. Continuing claims are still high. Initial jobless claims probably going to be upwards of 1 million into next month. Final thought.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about when the PPP runs out, right? We're seeing these type of unemployment with companies with PPP. My concern is when this runs out, what does that mean for unemployment? So not good in the short term.
All right. Well, David, thank you very much for your perspective on these markets, and we appreciate your time.